Originally, when I started my transition, I sort of had decided that I did not want to be a public activist. But it suddenly changed when I was coming out, because I went from doctor to doctor and person to person to try and find out what actually I could do and how it worked for transgender people in Iceland, for example. And I faced another wall and another wall. No one really knew what to do. So I got really mad, because if you're in a health system that says you're fighting for human rights and it's unavailable for you to get basic healthcare, for example, you get mad. And when I went to explain to doctors that I was a transgender person and I needed to have some healthcare, they didn't even know what it meant.
I say that our love must be brought in public, because it's just love, and it must have the same rights of heterosexual love, of bisexual love, and that's the reason for which we bring it in public.
Well, I remember when I was growing up and I had issues, if I may say so, with my sexuality, like I was thinking about myself and what I am and how can I show that to the people, I actually could find no support. So then I realized that I have to do something so that the people that come next to me and that come after me can actually have support that I didn't have.
It might be a very good time to be gay. I mean, especially if one compares with a few decades back. In most countries there's been progress. On the other hand, that does not mean that this is essentially a very good time to be gay, like very objectively, because what we're looking for is not really a set of special rights. It's really not being discriminated against. So there is no such thing as too little discrimination.
6 countries in the world currently have and do apply death penalty for homosexuality. So it's not still a wonderful period to be gay.
I identify as a trans woman and I identify as a transgender activist.
I first came out as bisexual, and then I realized that's not a very accurate description. I don't think about gender as something that is just male or female. So pansexual, that is a term that describes gender in a more inclusive way, like that gender is more on a spectrum. So I feel that that term fits me much better.
I was president of the school board, and another guy who was he was some way out as gay was some way bashed, and I went to the schoolmaster and said, "Okay, father, we must do something before it does end with violence." And he replied to me, "No, the best way is to don't talk openly about homosexuality, because the problem will be solved by itself."
Well, yeah, I get discriminated all the time. People judge me as being gay and Asian, not even just Korean, but just Asian in general. And the intersectionality part takes a huge part in my life, in my work, but also in my activism.
Well, it is a really big part of who I am, and by defining it, it makes it easier for me to find people who are having similar thoughts or similar experiences in life. So I think the labels themselves are really important, but at the same time I do understand that people might not want to label themselves in a very specific way, but definitely the labels are important.
They are important because if you want to fight for rights of something, you have to be able to identify it and label it so that people can know what you're talking about. I think it's really important in terms of terminology, and when you're explaining, like, this is why someone, for example, is being discriminated against, so that people see what you're saying.
My sexual orientation is a reason of discrimination, and discrimination can't be together with democracy.
For me, activism is about having equal rights and having equal opportunities. It's just being accepted in society as a person. So for me, it's very basic. It's about human rights. It's about being able to be who you are in society. And a lot of people can't be who they are.
In the school, when I find out that I am gay, it was quite difficult for me because there was I didn't know what homosexuality means at that time, actually, and nobody spoke about that. It was like a taboo, or just if somebody was talking about homosexuality, they usually use in the way to bully someone, to hurt someone, and that's why when I was like a child, I was trying to somehow to escape of that thing, and I was trying to change myself because I thought that it's like something wrong, something not good.
I just felt wrong. I just felt that there was something wrong inside me that I had to change and that I had to work on.
I don't think a lot of people understand it because not many Koreans do live in Denmark, and especially not a lot of gay Koreans. So for me, I'm a very weird product to a lot of people.
When I first started, it's changed actually a lot since I went through the transition, but it's basically you have to visit a psychiatrist or a psychologist who evaluates how you feel and that you are actually experienced that you are in the wrong gender. And you have to start, for example, living in your right gender and perhaps making a new name, basically living as the person you feel you are. And they sort of evaluate how you're doing in society while you're in this transition. And once you are ready and once you are really coping in society in your right gender, you can actually have physical transition where you, for example, start hormones. And these hormones are basically, if you are a trans woman, then you get female hormones. And if you're a trans man, you get men hormones. So it's basically like going through puberty again, except in a much shorter time and with much more power.
I was taught that I was supposed to grow up, get a wife, and have many children in an heterosexual family. And that was my only opportunity and my only chance to be happy.
I used to be a 14-year-old volleyball player, and I felt, let's say, different to the other guys who played with me. But I couldn't think of becoming a real volleyball star because I wanted to be as I was, but I didn't have any referent who was like me, like I was.
In the beginning, I was trying to be more with the girls, like to get a girlfriend. Well, I got one for half a year. I was in a friendship with her, but it was hard for me. Because I didn't, I knew that I lie, and one day I must tell her about this thing.
The fact is that many children and teenagers today are growing up in such an environment, so they have to feel every day like I've felt for years, wrong, ill, and they feel that they must hide something which is really important, a really important part of their life and of their identity.
My upbringing was fairly okay. There was not a lot of talking about LGBTIQ issues at all in my youth, actually, so I didn't know much about it as I was growing up, which is why I came out a bit later, because I just didn't know what it was.
They taught something before I came out, and when I officially came out, they needed something like 6 months, and for a more long period, something like a year, they didn't want to talk a lot about it. But after that, also because I was progressing in my activism, they had to fully accept it, and they have been really amazing and supportive at the end.
I think I was very lucky that the dean of the first school where I worked, he's Dutch. So I started, after maybe 1 week, when you start getting to know better your colleagues at the school where I worked when I was living in Spain. And I just started showing myself as I am. So telling jokes and explaining the others. Replying when somebody asks you, "What did you do? What did you do last night?" Or "Why are you so tired today?" The most important thing is to be honest, not to say. Reply the truth. I went out to the cinema with my boyfriend, and we had dinner then, and then we came back late, and then you talked honestly to everybody, and it's we say in Spanish, it flows like a river.
I feel that it's something not right, something not like what I feel and where I should be and where I should go and how I should act. So that's why I finally, when I find out myself and I answer what I am, I've just told what I am. It was very hard, but I did. And since that point, I feel myself much, much better.
When we come out, at least for me, I had a moment of huge internal strength. Because for the first time, I felt that I did accepted who am I. So I've just decided to work with that strength, becoming an activist, because I wanted to give to other people the opportunity to don't suffer and to don't go through what I've gone through.
I never felt the necessity of explaining somebody, of defending myself, that I'm good enough to do it despite being gay.
I think in the LGBTQ context, there are a lot of groups that tend to get forgotten, and you focus a lot on specific groups. And for example, gay and lesbian has been the main issue, and the T and the Q and everything at the back sort of gets left behind. So I definitely think that it's a lot more focused on homosexuality, and especially in everywhere you see in media and news, everywhere, the T and the B and all of the other letters sort of get left behind.
I consider myself as Danish, but obviously my appearance is Korean. And the reason why I became an activist in the first place is because it's very important to me to fight racism both outside the environment but also inside the LGBT environment.
I would say one can find discriminatory legislation in all aspects of life, actually.
Yes, in Iceland there is only a really small committee, and it only works inside of Reykjavik. So if you want to have some physical transition or something, or even if you just want to have, a social or a physical transition, you have to go to this committee, and they have to diagnose you, which pathologizes it and makes it sort of a disease. You have to accept that you have a disease so that you can get treatment.
Some people think we just want to create riots on a football stadium or a rugby stadium, but it's not that. It's if you realize, and I hope you will, the stereotypes depend on reference.
For example, I can be quite open out in public for my sexuality because people still are gonna judge you, and well, the situation hasn't been really good in the last years in Greece, so I might actually get attacked in the middle of the street just by portraying who I am.
There's a lot of hate speech.
In Iceland there are no specific hate crime laws or hate speech laws, so people are free to basically discriminate and basically say whatever they want without it having consequence.
I can say that this year my association, Archigay, has suffered many attacks to our local chapters. I want to mention Catania, when we have received an intimidating message in a clear mafia way, and also a tremendous attack to our national headquarters of Archigay, the Cassero.
I've encountered a lot of hate speech and hate crime actually in my life, so I've actually been a victim of continued hate speech and hate crimes, yes.
I consider myself lucky to live in the capital of my country where things are quite more open, and I can be more open about myself and my sexuality. But we still have a long way to go, especially in my country and especially in the Balkans area of Europe.
Well, I mean, I've come across a lot of negative words. I don't know if I can utter them here, but it's it's something that you just have to deal with and take gradually. And it's always about my sexual orientation and my ethnic background.
It's more that in my everyday life, people don't actually, for example, they don't want to accept me as a woman, for example. And there are a lot of transphobic remarks that people use towards transgender people. And they sort of like give them themselves power to define me. And it's like they, because they don't agree with me and they use the argument that it's their opinion that I'm not a real woman. But that's not really about their opinion, if you know what I mean. Yeah.
In Sicily, we had a death pigeon put in our local chapter C with a message, something like "Go away, faggots." And in Bologna, at the Castro, our national headquarters, there was something like a banner with written "Perversion must be cured."
That if someone would have said something very, very offensive or racist out in public, they could get arrested for it. But when it's online, it seems that you can't really be held accountable for it in the same way.
I want to do sports, to go on doing sports in the best way possible, and I can't now because of my sexual orientation. Some people don't want to swim with me in the pool, not with me, maybe in parallel, just because I'm homosexual.
I think that every month there is at least an attack. Consider that Italy is a big country and we have only Archigay has 54 local chapters. So having 10 or 12 attacks each year is a huge number.
I have the same obligations as everybody in my country, but I can't enjoy the same rights.
And people are thinking that if you don't speak about it, everything's going to be fine. But I think that is honestly a really pretty way to say if we don't talk about it, we can more easily ignore it.
I started to learn about homosexuality. What does it mean? Is it good? Is it wrong? Or it's just a regular thing to be what you are? And then as much as I was like reading, trying to find information about myself, to learn about myself, I found out that it's nothing wrong in that it's like completely right thing, normal thing, like regular thing, like everyone are. So that's why I decided that I should be who I am, actually.
Well, I think it's my right, for the same reason that my brother can actually walk down the street with his girlfriend and hold her hand and actually kiss her. I actually want to do the same with my boyfriend, my girlfriend, with anyone that I'm with. And I think it's my right, because I'm a human being. Everybody knows love and everybody knows affection, and I deserve that.
Our sexual orientation is also our affective orientation. So I want to have also the right in the future to stand at my partner's bed in an hospital or to visit him in a prison, to have every right that is allowed to a couple, to an heterosexual couple. Because there is obviously a private dimension, but there is also a public and social dimension of love, affection, and also of sexuality.
People are being targeted and actively discriminated on these spaces, so of course it should be mentioned, and of course it should be a public policy, because it is an issue which we need to raise.
Queer people are a big and diverse group of people, and we're not all gay, and there's various people who identify within the queer umbrella.
The acceptance of these LGBT sportsmen and women starts with the presence of people who are openly gay or lesbian or bisexual, and they do sports in a professional way. So it's the reference society needs to step over the stereotype and the barrier.
Sometimes you think about that you just want to like calm down and not do anything, but if everybody would think that, we would never get anywhere. So I think maybe it's better to do it instead of waiting for other people to do it for you.
Well, I would hope for the LGBTQ people in my country to be a bit more visible and to actually be less afraid to claim their rights.
I think by looking at the big picture, I think more and more people are moving around the world. The world is getting smaller, it's easier accessible, and I think that we're going to see that everyone has to live together at one point. And I think just by starting in Denmark with the curriculum and showing that there's another color than just white would be amazing.
We advocate and we want to build a more open and acceptant society for everyone. Not only for LGBTQI persons. We advocate in that field because it is something that is related to our personal experience and our personal lives. But we advocate for a general progression of our society.
More acceptance. People knowing more about queer issues.
And we must think about each other to learn each other. And if we will learn, open our hearts, we can live a better life.
In my field, in the field of LGBT sports, I hope in the future LGBT sports clubs won't exist.
For me, probably the worst thing would be if everything would go silent, people would stop raising the issue and activism would sort of stop. Because as soon as you stop, it's easier for people to ignore it.
I live in a country which discriminates me. I live in Italy, so I still need to fight.